And the national anthem for Team USA. Our multi are excited for
Yeah, this is really trivial and two different programs going two different points in their career, right? And a dominant person fights their team's older experience, been playing together for a long time, but the other 20 players who they they there you go, experience is one was men team see American ever play. Wow, reuse.
number 67 at Chief William. Number 1 to Justin.
Since they go to best of breed, that was one of the things that both countries have to do. Nobody was there, and this is now lost. Even the men's team that is now pretty serious, and it really changes everything, right? It doesn't matter how many you win or lose by the first game. You got to do it again and one more time. Yeah, it's really big. We're having a little stream technical difficulties too. Like a lot of various, got different, band business. Where I was older, but get the screen. But right now, where it is, this is it's funny. These players are especially like they're also very used to playing each other, and they're not going to take anything from anybody. Aaron Church will be very, very Actually, yeah, right. Just this thing's everything. He's got a big feature there, and his goals for him. Or football players. Oh, that's different because you say bird and it's citizenship, and then spend over from Ukraine. Now lives, I believe, in the states up in the Pacific Northwest. US. One of the things the kids are going to have to pay attention to, younger people in attendance, not like the straight up when we start doing this and staying out playing the line and taking the rest of the things. The younger people are about to multitude of things for them.
Or it'll be a free hit to Canada. They'll get the opportunity to change completely. Now, Ollie Parent will stay out as the rest of the second line comes out for United States. Second line anchored by Isaac Eingerstein, who's often thought to be one of the better U.S. trained players out there. He plays for the NCFA club just north on I-35 here in Texas, up out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Grenapine, very crafty with the ball as Grenapine. Does a lot of work in and around the net, although he hasn't had much opportunity to do so this game for the Canadians. Jet plays it pick up top for Casino. Grenapine, Bolstat, and Burns pops it out, gets another shove in for good measure, and Grenapine will take the free hit for Canada.
Reed Hearn's a long time men's team player for the U.S. Been in, I think he's been in what, 4 cycles now for World Championships?
4 cycles, and was unable to play in the Helsinki cycle because of an injury. But outside of that, he has been a mainstay. Parent generates the turnover from Jet, feeds it right back. Pardon me, this would be Ian Meyer, who played with the U.S. team in Belgium. The impressive new player with the U.S. team with a very hard and heavy shot. Looking far wing, trying to feed it over to Angerstick or Henderson Taylor, but it's turned back over and Grenapine forces it up for Canada. In the near corner, the Canadians turn with it. Friedley looking across the hit. Jet pushed it in front. It went harmlessly to the corner. Friedley as it tapped away by Parent. Parent is on a very long shift here because he got an early change out for the first line. And now both teams look to change on the ball. The captain for Canada, Tristan Walsh, had good authority that has become quite the leader for Team Canada and one of those players that they can always depend on outside of the pitch, outside of the ring. Against the Canadians to the Americans. It'll be Tarasu. Touch it in, Derek Mosier. Play it over to Case Connor.
Notice here how Canada's a lot more spread out than the U.S. has been. There's a good play. There's a good shot that Connor was able to pull.
Case Connor wants the shot, but it was blocked out. A great job getting it. Great Bunsberger on that third line for Canada. That's the second time the U.S. third line has generated a scoring opportunity against the Canadian third line. Walsh, very, very patient with the ball currently. So far through the first 7 minutes or so, possession has been valued by both teams. Neither team really in too much of a rush in transition. Addington takes the far side, turned over into the slot. Hunsberger waves at it. It's a shot from Mahoney, and a big stop by Stokely. Rebound recycling through Walsh. And now the Canadians will get their third line changed. The Americans will change as much as they can of their third line. Goes to prevent a mismatch here. They're able to get all five on and off. Now even up once again. And the line matchups, Brian, for those who haven't watched floorball before, are so crucial, even more so than in a sport like hockey, because if you find yourself in a mismatch, positively or negatively against the next line, that could define the next minute or so.
Absolutely. I mean, what happens too is as you get into especially in a physical game, there's a referee with an advantage for those who don't know. But in a physical game, you get that physical mismatch. There's all sorts of opportunities to move.
Great job by Stokely to cut down the angle. Knew that Vidakovsky wanted the sweeper in the high slot, and he came out and his goaltender to knock it down and grab the rebound. One of the things that goalies would talk about is controlling rebounds, and so far Stokely is 2 for 2 in that regard. And you're lucky if you're over 30% for a game as a floorball keeper. It'll be a U.S. free hit over along the far boards as the ball went out, last touched by Canada. He tucked into David Hansen. Fans on the shot attempt. Thank you, Knight.
Knight's dangerous up the wing like that.
Part of the benefit of Knight and Knight's build is he picks up speed very quickly, but he's got also a very high top speed, which is why he's on this Canadian first line. Behind the cage is Field, back to Vidakovsky. Plays it on the Field. Shield and Vidakovsky both back there for Canada. One touch to Barber, back to Field. Barber turns. And we'll play it everything along the near boards right now for Canada. Pass picked off by Balabahe. And back behind the net he comes. Looking up the boards for Pekka Lane, but it's stolen by Field. Good forecheck in the early going for Canada. They've had the lion's share of the opportunities so far against the Americans. Vidakovsky slides it in towards the right. And a shot from the near side by Field goes straight out. Stokely had to dive over. Those are dangerous situations, Brian, when a shot is blocked. You have no control sometimes over where the ball goes.
Well, as you said, Bud, we're both goalies, right? So when that ball pivots, the speed of floor as it goes wing to wing, side to side, point to point, really the goal is to pull the goalie out of that position.
For a moment, Friedley, Meyer regains for the Americans. Meyer takes it down. He'll come back into his own end. He's waved at Meyer. Instead, it's returns, turning it for Pennington Taylor, and now Parrott coming in. Had an odd man rush, but the official this time will not call the advantage and will call it back to center.
That's really a judgment call from the official. If they think the offense still has a chance to do something with it, it'll be an advantage. Oh, a little bare hand save right there.
Brings the shot and grab from Kasha.
Oh.
United States, it looked like they weren't able to get back so quickly off of that free hit. And Kasha playing it up very quickly. Canada gets the first goal, and it's a transition goal, 9:15.
Counterattacking is everything in floorball. You have to be alert all the time. The goalie can kick it back out so fast, and suddenly you're back odd man rush, 2 man down, 3 men down the other way. And that was a beautiful feed through, and Canada able to put it away to go up 1.
So Canada, the goal in floorball is always confirmed on the next face-off. So the minute this face-off is taken, Canada will take a 1-0 lead. Canada in white heading from left to right on your screen. The United States in their blue uniforms with blue shorts. Free hit called once again to Canada. And that 5th free hit they've earned for the United States is 2, which again keeps in line with the U.S.'s goal of playing a more physical brand of floorball to the point, although play it up to getting penalized for it.
It's always the hard line. You got to feel the refs out. You got to feel your opponents out. You got to feel your teammates out. How are we going to play? These guys have 3 hard-fought games to play in the next 48 hours. I mean, they play again tomorrow night at 7 and then turn right around and play at 11 on Saturday morning. So it's a tough 3-day transition. But that's part of what happens when you have this kind of a format.
Great block underneath and a great job by Case Connor that came back on the back check to help snuff out that opportunity from Daly. The shot from Tarasu tipped off on the stick of Addington and wide. And once again, we'll get a change. So both third lines for each team come off. And Lumiala on for Canada. They'll change on the ball. Barber comes in deep for Canada. To the goaltender crease as Field handles back to Knight on the other side of the floor. Lumiala's shot. Oh, that went off the outside of the cage. Didn't touch anyone on the way. And so it's United States ball. They'll get a free hit from their defensive end. And we see here Canada bringing up really 2 close players on that free hit. They want to forecheck as much as possible and force the United States into what just happened, which is a pass that ended up in the middle of the floor. It's stolen by Lumiala. Back in here, Budakovsky driving inside.
Oh, that was a huge kick save to start.
By Barber to score the 2nd goal of the game. And as you mentioned, Brian, great first save by Stokely. Nothing he could do about that rebound.
Now, you get that kick out there. We've all done it. It's just an instinctive move as a goalie, but then to not be able to control the rebound when you have offensive players in the goalie box, there's not much you can do about it at that point except pray your defense gets back.
Circumstance where in floorball you're trained defensively to try and use your body so that a volley like what we just saw from Barber doesn't happen. Barber able to field the off, batted it off about the ground, let's say, with his backhand into the top shelf, and now after steal Friedley, another quick shot looking for his 2nd of the game. It's blocked to the corner. Running up the floor is Meyer. Ian Meyer spins with it. Ian Meyer so dangerous from the high slot, but it's poked away. Here's Matt Smith.
Shot from the point.
Does have his 2nd of the game, 2nd assist to Matt Smith. And within the span, Brian, of 90 seconds, Canada is out to a 3-0 lead.
Well, this goes back to what we said at the start of the match, right? You don't have a score aggregate. You don't have to worry about it. Get it under control. You're not putting the whole weekend out of reach in the first 10 minutes of the weekend. You have 3 matches. You've got to win 2 of them. But you can lose 1 by 50 and win the other 2 by 1, and you still advance. So that's the important part for the players to keep track now is don't get discouraged. You know, it's a new team together. Let's see what happens.
Something else to note for the Americans, they of course have a new coaching staff. This is only the 2nd event overall that they're even at with the new coaching staff. And so still some adjustments on that front. Mosier blocked that pass across from Walsh, saving a otherwise easy goal for the Canadians. But Walsh will regroup for Canada. And now this 3rd line for the Americans will reset against the 3rd line for the Canadians. Stuart Bowden plays it over to the far wing. They're looking for Mahoney in the far corner. Mahoney has done a share of coaching for Floorball Canada as well. He's got a good mind for the game. Turns it over. Mosier, a nice spin. He feeds it up to Tarasu. Tarasu over to Connor. Case Connor.
U.S. really has an opportunity here to establish some control in their own offensive end, but they need to focus on crisp passing. One of the things we haven't seen a lot yet from the U.S.
Mosier, nice little fake step against James Daly to earn some room. Addington has it go off of his foot, is able to save it to Tarasu. The Canadians really got a break. Here's Mosier coming in, finds Potter in the slot, and that's blocked. A huge block for the Canadians. I think getting a foot on it was Reed Hunsberger. Keskamala takes it over on the far wing. Mosier had it turned over. Right.
What a pick.
Beautiful save by Sebastian Stokely on Valtteri Vidakovsky. Vidakovsky making a bid for that transition goal, but Stokely says no. Keeps it to a 3-goal game.
Plenty of time in floorball with the momentum. I mean, this is a game of momentum and streaks. You've got to just get, when you've got a momentum against you, it's dig deep and stop the momentum, get an equalize, get one back if you can. But if you can't, you've got to go ahead and do what you can to just halt the momentum, make them go through.
Canadians playing back after another pass intercepted. The Americans having a tough time getting in the offensive third with possessions. Lots of turnovers in the middle third of the floor to this point for the Americans. Something that I know the coaching staff they try to not like too much. And there's another ball turned over to Budakovsky.
Sebastian is keeping the U.S. in this match. There's a in the
helmet in his head better than perhaps any goaltender I've spent any length of time around, and that time able to make the save off of his steel painted Eagle helmet. Turns takes time to fix the boards on the near side before taking the free hit. And we'll play it back to Meyer. So second line out for the Americans against second line with the Canadians. So the lines have not been mismatched at any point really to speak of in the first half so far. Lines have been even up. And if you're keeping track, the second line for the Canadians has a couple of goals. The first line has one. Understood. Turns. Looking for Pedersen-Taylor. The ball is partially deflected. Great effort by Pedersen-Taylor to get it. Takes it and puts it to Parent in the corner. Parent has it, looking in front for Angerstig. Burns his shot is blocked out in front. Instead, that is also blocked. Pedersen-Taylor once again gets to the ball first. And he's saying to the official he feels like he was obstructed with. I think he probably had it.
Case. I mean, that was a quick jump in, heads up play by the Canadians. At that point, all they're giving up is a free hit in the corner. Penalties pretty hard to come by in floorball unless it's just egregious. These two teams like to play physical. The referees look like they're going to let them play physical. It should be a really interesting. Wow.
We talked about Cedric Grenapine and how slick he is with the stick. You see there on that goal how little time it takes for him to whip around and fire it towards the cage, low, near side. That's so difficult for a goaltender to stop when the sweep is coming from your left to your right. The shot going back low to your left, nearly impossible. And the U.S., I wouldn't say necessarily they were soft in the middle, but maybe just not prepared for that quick of a shot and quick of a release.
Well, and that's where you get the experience of Grenapin, right? 4 or 5 cycles through now. You won't get that kind of experience in future going to the 4-year calendar now for IFF, but it's going to be a whole lot more important for our young men to get this, for the U.S. young men to get that experience going forward.
Mosier with the steal will turn it up for the U.S. line. Mosier playing midway as a defender, and a great play by Tarasus to knock the ball forward. Here's Keen Adams.
Oh.
But he was able to grab it just on the far post and keeps it a 4-0 Canadian lead. In this third line for the Americans, it seems like they've had the better of the opportunities playing against the Canadian third line versus maybe the Canadian first and second lines against the American top 2 line.
Yeah, right now.
In terms of how the floor has been open.
Yeah, right now, definitely the Canadians first and second line are winning the battles. The third line, it looks better for the Americans, but I don't know if it's because of the American skills so much as maybe the third line that was a little more weak for the Canadians.
I want to call attention back to the block by Derek Mosier that set the U.S. on that partial break. Now the first line gets an opportunity to come out for the Americans and set up a free hit in the corner or along the side here. The official will call it back nearer to half pitch. David Hansen feeds it to Landon Van Patten. Quick sweep. That's blocked up high by Alex Field. David Hansen back behind the net. It's pinched off the ball by Lumiala. Lumiala now challenged by Van Patten. Van Patten goes in very physically against Eetu Lumiala. And the Canadians will have a free hit. But Van Patten applauded by his bench for once again that physical play.
Well, if you can't get it on the board, you've got to do it quick on the body. And right now, the U.S. is trying to make Canada work for every advancement, and Canada responding with what they need to do. Two quick shots, snipes from the corner so far in Canada. The other 2 in the front in the scrum.
Came out aggressively to pop that out. Now it'll be a free hit to the Canadians in the far corner. and a quick timeout called. And they will talk to the American bench. Maybe about their talk to the officials. It was tough to tell. Beautiful save by Stokely up the hit. Save.
Huge saves.
It'll go to the Canadians, but Stokely able to just get a few of his left fingers on that shot from field to deflect it away.
And thank God it was behind the goal line, or that could have been a very dangerous location for a free hit.
Idakovsky lays it in. Knight looking over things. Knight thinks about the shot through a screen. It's wide. Barber grabs the rebound. Looked over by Bahaba. Now field behind the net. Idakovsky back with it for the Canadians. Idakovsky behind the net. Lumiala. Field. Once again, two behind the cage for the Canadians as they set up. Idakovsky between his legs. Barber, backhand pass out in front. Idakovsky is denied. A nice play by Daniel Hansen. But then the field, and Field has a goal, his first in the series. The U19 graduate for Canada, the former U19 captain for the Canadians, scores here 5-0. And Brian, before we even get to the goal, I have to say, sometimes an athlete's memory is very, very, very long. And this strikes me similar to the games in Toronto. The first game, the Americans, Canadians, they played even for the first 10 minutes. And then there was a 90-second to 2-minute period of time where the Americans gave up 3 goals and they were chasing from behind the rest of the game. And that's very much the flavor of game we've got so far here.
We were in that game. A good portion of this team was in that game, and they're going to obviously be thinking about that now. Again, with the momentum that Canada has been doing here, it's definitely something the U.S. is going to have to overcome. A goal here would be huge. That was a great-looking pass from Pedersen Taylor.
Just anything to get you back on the right side of things if you're an American. And for the Canadians, they want to finish this period exactly like the scoreboard says, 5-0.
Yeah.
Note that game in Toronto that we were talking about, David Hansen actually got the first goal of that game. And it wasn't until that happened that the Canadians kind of had a stretch of about 2 minutes where I believe they scored 3 or 4 goals, very similar to the 3 goals in 90 seconds here. Turns, wins the ball back from Friedley. A pass through the middle. Angerstig does well just to get a stick on it. It pokes free to Grenapine. His pass back is intercepted by Ollie Parrott. Parrott drives in, spins.
Dangerous. Great. That goes back to that experience, right? Matt's been on this team for a long time, but the U.S. has got to try to get into the locker room with one more. Going in with scoreless would be hard to take.
Again, I've been very impressed with Pedersen Taylor so far this game, playing up on the wing. And once again, he's in a ball battle, goes hard into the boards and wins a free hit. Pedersen Taylor was everywhere on that last 50, and Ollie Parrott able to keep the ball alive for the Americans. Get a couple of good opportunities, but as you mentioned, Brian, a savvy block from Matt Smith and a shot fly. David right back to the Canadians after that little American onslaught. Connor's shot once again blocked out. He'll go into the corner and dive in hard against Stuart Bowden, and now is in basket against Hunsinger. Hunsinger plays it forward. Daly from the near corner. Ball pops up in the air. Connor once again wins it down. A nifty move to kick it ahead to Addington. West Keskamala.
Oh, there it was. Chance.
The other way for the Canadians. Another shot on the ball. Off a rebound. And once again, nothing Stokely could do. The shot coming from Patrick Mahoney bounced off the mask of Stokely and right to the stick of James Daly, who was able to beat his defender back into the crease and score the Canadians 6th goal of this first period. 1:24 remaining in the first, and we've seen every line for Canada get on the board to this point. They've done it in various different ways. There's been a couple of rebound goals, a couple of snipes from the point, a few passes from out behind the net that caused a little bit of havoc. And the Canadians now, we're yet to be 19 minutes gone in this game. They're up 6-0. Field plays it back for Knight. Line 1 versus line 1. Knight looked over by Daniel Hansen. Now Field Into the near corner. Vidakovsky sliding with it, defended well by Lane, has to give it away to Lumiala. Back it comes to Vidakovsky. Looks inside, Lumiala spins, but right into the leg of Mito Vahabahe. That ball went. Barber trying to reset. Feeds it in front for field, but Vahabahe will not only knock it to the corner, but also then knock it out, and both teams will get a quick reset here. So keep the first line out for both squads. 40 seconds remaining in the first period. Barber to trigger it in. Does so behind the net. Vidakovsky looking, waved at by Pakalain. Vidakovsky finds Barber. Barber spins, a blind pass, intercepted by Hansen. And now Landon Van Patten, his shot, deflected away by Lumiala, who got back in a hurry. David Hansen keeps the ball alive for Daniel Hansen. The ball loose in front for a moment, but Field able to knock it away for the Canadians. And now Vidakovsky gets away from Hearn. Into the middle, that shot might have deflected off of the hands of Stokely. There was a yard sale for a second in front of the net. Players and sticks were scattered with 7 seconds left. A free hit ball for Canada here. And they'll try to add to their 6-0 lead. Brendan Barber comes over. Once again, first line staying out. Barber looks in front. Plays it back to the high point. Vidakovsky's shot deflects. Field in front. That's stolen away by Landon Van Patten, and he will kill off the second. Good job by Van Patten there to jump in front of Dice. And now we have 6-0 game as we head to the second period. Brian, as far as adjustments are concerned, you'd have to think Team USA might try perhaps a few changes with the line, potentially a few changes as far as strategy with how they're playing the interior and the Canadian offense against the American defense in front of their own goal. Because we've seen Canada get some open looks, get to rebounds, and I know that's probably antithetical to what the American coaching staff would like.
What they're trying to do right now is play a physical game that hangs into Canada's speed, and right now they're having trouble with both. Canada's faster on the counterattack, and they're snapping passes better, and it's working a lot better.
And it's for the Canadians, Kasha wasn't really tested in the first half. They had, though, Canadians, a number of blocks, very solid on American attempts, and that's ultimately kind of the reason we got a 6-0 score here. The Americans had a lot of opportunity, and Brian, I don't want to read too much into this, but I'm seeing Ethan Van Patten put his regular goalie jersey back on. He might be warming up for a second period appearance in this one.
Well, and this is the sort of thing too, where you go back to they have a very young team, right? They have a young team with a lot of opportunities ahead of them, but in the meantime, what do they have to do to get their players ready? If a game starts to get a little bit out of hand, why not get your guys in? Get them some minutes, get them some experience. They're not going to get any better, any younger, faster facing this Canadian offense.
And if we do see Ethan Van Patten in the second half, or the second keeper for the American, it's not because Sebastian Stokely played poorly in the first half. In fact, it could have been much worse in terms of the Canadian advantage. Stokely was victimized on a few rebounds and a few shots in the slot that he couldn't do anything with, but he also stopped a couple of very difficult shots from Vidakovsky and a couple of tough centering passes as well. So this is maybe more about just making a change for the team. Like they say a lot of times in other sports where you put one goalkeeper in for the other goalkeeper. It's not about how the first goalkeeper necessarily played. And I think Stokely might have been the player of the period.
Easily. I mean, this could easily be a 10 to 11 point deficit instead of 6. Stockley really did a great job of keeping the Americans even within shouting distance. 6 is a mountain to climb, but it's possible with 2 periods to go.
I think ultimately, if you're the American, you're looking for positive momentum, anything positive, win the next shift, etc. If you're the Canadians, you're hoping to build on this, get more players in the scoring so that they feel like they're a part of this qualifier, so you can come back again with full team tomorrow with that high level of confidence. We'll be back in about 10 minutes with the second period. We're going to keep streaming for you right here on the IFF app and Apple TV. We're back after that. welcome you back to Georgetown, Texas, everyone. We're on the campus of Southwestern University, and currently the score is 6-0. Team Canada against Team USA. This is once again qualifiers to go to the Men's World Floorball Championships 2026. It's a 3-game series, and if you're watching and you're a United States fan, then there may not need to be any need to despair to this point, because it is a 3-game series. And as Brian Radical, who is with me, mentioned multiple times in the first period, you don't have to worry about the total goals situation that these qualifiers used to be. If you're unfamiliar with how the qualifiers work, the winner of this best of 3 series will go on to the Men's World Floorball Championships in 2026. Only one of these 2 teams will go on to the championships. In the past, it was a 2-game total goals series, which created some interesting situations. For example, a tie a few cycles ago on the campus of TCU. So the Americans, they're trying to get out on the front foot perhaps a little bit more. They had less possession than the Canadians did in the first half. Sebastian Stuckli is back in net for Team USA. We talked about Ethan Van Patten having his jersey on, his Unihawk jersey ready to go, but he is back on the sideline to begin the second period. And Stuckli back in the net, and as Brian and I talked about, probably the player of the first period for the Americans. The Americans have switched up their defensive structure just a little bit in the half-pitch set, and Vahavahe takes it over from the Canadians. So we'll look out for other changes for each one of these 2 teams. The Canadians look to be in a pretty clear 2-2-1 setup currently with their first line. And this ball turned over by David Hansen, looking for Landon Van Patten, who sweeps away a shot off of the ensuing Canadian turnover, and a mask save by the Canadian goaltender Christoph Kasha, and a quick tic-tac-toe goal at the other end field to Vitakulski, to Barber, who finishes it. And once again, Stuckli, no opportunity on that to make the save. It was a 3-on-1 break. Quick passing from the Canadians, and once again, their first line strikes. This time comes off a save from Christoph Kasha, who was not tested all that much in the first half, had a couple of saves to make, but comes out with a big save off of a rifle shot from Landon Van Patten. Canada gets the fast break the other direction and makes it a 7-0 game, just 52 seconds in to the second period. The U.S. wins the faceoff, though, after the goal, and Ian Meyer will capture some space for himself in the defensive end for the U.S. Isaac Angerstig plays it up to Ollie Parent, spins around. Parent on the advantage, trying the wraparound. Nothing there. Parent out in front. Pedersen Taylor takes it over, but it bounced off of his stick, turned over to Isaac Grenapine. And Cedric Grenapine knocked it out. Reed Hearns will put the ball back in play along the far boards, and Hearns is unhappy about something. He's talking to the official. The second line started to generate opportunities in the last 5 minutes or so of the first period, and it was really through the play of Pedersen Taylor and Ollie Parent. Meyer and Reed Hearns play catch. Hearns knocks it down at the high point. Back it comes to Meyer. Meyer, cross pitch, Pedersen Taylor's shot. That's deflected away off the stick of Isaac Kashino, and Jett comes back for the Canadians. Alex Jett plays to the far side. Cedric Grenapine walking it up. He's in no particular hurry. Jett over to the near wing, and Kashino. 2 minutes gone by in this second period. We play 3 periods in floorball, each of 20 minutes. Jett to the far wing. Shot from Grenapine is deflected wide. Now Smith takes a shot. I don't know that was intended to be a shot. I think he was looking backdoor, but it deflected off the stick of Angerstig. Stuckli comes through with not only the stop, but manages to grab the rebound and set the table for the U.S., who will change on the ball. Third line versus third line once again. And here comes Addington down the near wing. Kes Kamala back behind the cage. Kes Kamala off of the boards to Case Connor, who had some of the U.S.'s better looks in the first half. It's turned back to Keskamala, knocks it down, looks in front. The ball deflected by Kashino to the far corner. Connor with it. Connor to Addington. Keen Addington the fourth, lost it. Canada wants to fast break the other way. Patrick Mahoney leading the way. Mahoney spins, looks backdoor, and it's deflected by the Americans. And now we've got fire wagon floorball. End-to-end action. Addington's pass intended for Connor, deflected away by a back-checking Canadian. And coming to knock the ball free is Daly for Team Canada. Walsh now with it. Addington back on Walsh, was able to deflect the ball off of his stick, but he'll get called for a stick infraction, and it'll be a free hit to the Canadians. So that American third line, once again, Brian, seems like they had the better of the looks against the Canadian third line.
Well, Trent, one of the things I know we're working on here, first of all, I'd like to apologize to everybody for the technical difficulties we had the first period, but I think we've got them resolved now. As we are looking up here, I mean, it's really, the U.S. has come out knowing it's a new period. They're trying to make it one period at a time. They're trying to play this game a period at a time so that they can, sit back and win a period. Win this period, then win next period. I mean, at the end of the day, you win 6 periods, they win 3, you win the weekend.
A 2-minute, a penalty shot coming up.
Here we go.
Hansen, credit to him, came back with such speed that Alex Field was trying to back check, and a Canadian got his stick in there. Daniel Hansen winning the penalty shot for the Americans. A great play with excellent speed. One of the things about Daniel Hansen, I haven't really seen a whole lot of him up until this week, is in practice he does play the game with such speed, and he's very frequently, very usually the first guy down on the forecheck for the Americans in practice, and that's been the case to this point for this first line. So it's David Hansen to take the penalty against Christoph Kasha.
For those who are using the hockey, this is usually where hockey players go, why is it so slow? Because it's a chess match.
Hansen stopped by Kasha. And as a goaltender, you want to maybe yield a little bit more towards the player's forehand side. So in that circumstance, Hansen shoots left. Kasha was towards the left-hand side of the goal. Hansen tried to pull back to the left, shoot very quickly, elected for shot over Deke, and Kasha didn't really have to move. Let the ball hit his forearm, and no goal on the penalty.
It's really hard too as a player trying to come in and make a penalty shot like that. It's hard. You have to decide, are you going to come charging in and try to draw a goalie out? Most goalies in floorball are a lot more patient than hockey goalies.
Face off from the far corner to restart play after the penalty shot, and Jet will settle things down for the Canadians. Grenapine. About 4 minutes into the second period. The Canadians have the only goal here in the second frame. Matt Smith trying to spin away from the defensive Angerstig. Grenapine coming back with it. Grenapine finds himself twisted around by Angerstig, but Smith sets up a quick one-touch shot from Kashino. That's knocked down. Both teams fighting for the ball. Pedersen-Taylor comes away with it for the Americans. Goes 1-on-2, wins the battle. Pedersen-Taylor stops, resets to the point. Meyer to Angerstig, couldn't connect on the shot. Parent looks back across the crease for Pedersen-Taylor. It's knocked away by Kashino, and he'll kick it deep into the Canadians' offensive end. Angerstig turning, has it stolen away by Grenapine. Grenapine back behind the net, a forehand volley in front from Stephen Friedley, and now a penalty coming against the Canadians behind the play. Parent has the ball taken away from him by Alex Jett, but the penalty well behind the play. There was a scattering of balls and a scattering of boards back there. So the bucket of balls that they have to put into play when a ball goes askew was knocked over. And the penalty will be on Isaac Kashino. So we'll get a first look at the Canadian box play and the American power play. Van Patten.
U.S. has to take advantage of this. We got to have a goal in. This is where, if you get shut down here, what a huge boost for Canada.
Kasha makes the save, so it's Pakalane, Van Patten, David Hansen, Isaac Angerstig, and Meyer out on the power play for the Americans. The Canadians looking to play a 2-2 box, it seems like here. Oftentimes in the past, they've played a diamond, but not in this circumstance. Hansen gives and goes with Meyer. Meyer, the trigger guy behind the net. Pakalainen, the shot. That's deflected through traffic. A difficult save for Kasha. Couldn't control the rebound as a result of the deflection. Van Patten looks inside for Angerstig, and Pakalainen has to regroup near center. About 1:10 remaining on the Canadian penalty. Meyer. David Hansen. David Hansen back to Pakalainen. Now Van Patten scores! And so the Americans in attendance, they've got something to cheer about. Landon Van Patten rifles one home from Lucas Pakalainen. And with 14:22 remaining in the second period, it's now 7-1 Canada.
Such a big emotional goal for the Americans to be able to get that back on, come back and get a serious goal, close us back to the 6-goal deficit they came out of intermission with. Remind the Canadians this is going to be a walk in the park. Now it's going to have to see how do the Americans keep the pressure on. Can they keep the pressure on? Can you score even-handed? Because if you can score even strength, then there is nothing to worry about. Right now the Canadians are thinking, okay, that was just a power play.
Van Patten had a shot earlier in that power play, hit Kasha's chest, that time making no mistake. He loves that near side high spot, and that time hit it to a tee. Kasha had no chance at it. It was a perfect pass by Pakalainen. Hit the forehand side of Landon Van Patten. Landon Van Patten, who's got maybe the best shot in terms of accuracy on the U.S. team, manages to score. Now Pedersen Taylor intercepts the pass from Smith, and the Americans will try to play out from the back here. Hearns walks it up against Friedli. Angerstig, one touches to Meyer. Those two play catch. Angerstig. Meyer walks it up. Meyer all the way to the rear boards. Parent comes back to take over Meyer's defensive position. Meyer spinning along the near side, looked against by Jet. And Jet's eventually able to win that board battle. Feeds it up the boards to Kashino. Kashino, the player who took the penalty for Team Canada that led to the United States power play goal. Send it back to Smith. Partial change for the Americans on the fly. Mosier comes out. The only member of the third line currently out for the U.S. Bypassing Mosier along the rear boards to Stephen Friedli, but then Friedli gets spelled into by Reed Hearns. And the Americans unable to get much more of a change coming off. And now we get a penalty taking place. And I'm not sure.
Oh, he's calling it for going not through the substitution area. You're not allowed to just run up the boards or hop off and run in. So
he was inside the substitution area, so it might be for a different infraction, maybe something as he was coming off. Because Angerstig was defensively at the time playing in the center position. But I'm not sure, without the immediate benefit of replay, it's tough to tell, but the official was very demonstrative in making that call. And now we get the first look at the Americans' box play and the Canadians' power play. And nothing makes for a good box play like a good keeper. Stuckley able to make that save on Vidakovsky. Friedli plays it to Vidakovsky. Now back it comes to Barber. And a nice calm save made by Stuckley, who now feeds it forward to Hansen, who is trying to break. The Canadians come back with it. Odd man rush. Comes to Barber near side. And on to Mahoney. Mahoney out on this first power play unit along with Friedli, Barber, Vidakovsky, and Smith. Now Friedli shot from the point. Save made by Stuckley. He'll grab the loose ball. Stuckley's already up to 3 saves on this box play for the Americans. Daniel Hansen unable to get it deep though. Friedli comes back away with it. His shot kicked out by Stuckley. It's 4 shots, 4 saves on this box play for the U.S. 1 minute gone. The Canadians pouring on the pressure. Really some very quick passes, quick looks, and that time Vidakovsky uses the screen to rifle it home. So it's interesting. The Canadians had so many nice looks on that. And sometimes you just go to your bell cow. Valtteri Vidakovsky rifles one home. Stood there, thought about it, picked a spot, and scores. He is such a dynamic player for the Canadians. 8-1 as the two teams exchange power play marker.
Well, again, they're proving the special teams is going to be about even so far. So now now the U.S. has to answer with an even strength goal. I mean, they have to show the Canadians that they can score when all square, and they haven't done that yet. There hasn't really been a lot of pressure yet. To your point, hasn't been a lot of opportunities, hasn't been a lot of real good crisp passing from the Americans, whereas the Canadians are touch passing like a Premier League soccer team.
Cameron Buck out for the first time that I've used at least for Team Canada, ranked number 9 in the player. He also a Team Canada mainstay, been on a lot of these men's teams for the Canadians. Mosier knocked a aerial ball down. Connor couldn't quite come away with it. It was kicked aside by Moden. And now this third line for the Canadians. The captain for Canada rifles a shot. It's blocked again by Mosier. Here's Addington. Addington spinning with it, spins into the pressure of Walsh, finds Keskamala now. Keskamala centering feed, knocked away by Kasha. And now the Canadians want to run. 3-on-2. Walsh looking for Buck in the slot. It's turned back over. Connor back with it. Connor has the ball knocked off of his stick. Now Addington fighting with Bowden with it. And they'll give a free hit to Bowden. Once again, when these two third lines are out there, we see a lot back and forth. And the Americans, they want to play. Look with the transition. What's that? Games, but they just the Americans outside of that chance for lunch, so then to really perhaps out in the sport as far as transition is concerned.
Yeah, the Americans are having trouble right now with ball handling and some simple passing. There's just the Canadians are moving the ball fluidly and so much better and taking care of it when they have it. Americans still look a little unsure of themselves, grabbing the sticks, kind of swiping at the ball sometimes. So there's definitely a difference in the play, and the passing is just not as accurate, right? I mean, there's another example of I'm going to throw it in the middle and here right now, and again, great opportunity, but nobody home.
Daniel Hansen waving at that pass from David Hansen, but once again, you saw Daniel Hansen, the one there creating that opportunity. And we talked to his speed earlier on in the broadcast. Canadians trying to come right back, but Nikolsky has it knocked away by Mahabahen, and it'll be punched in deep by Daniel Hansen.
U.S. gets a line change in here, yeah.
Second line out for the U.S. for the most part, except for the deep pair. And now the deep pair will get an opportunity to change, as does Canada. That ball goes out. That's touched by the Americans. Smith can trigger it in for Team Canada.
Halfway gone in the game. It's a 7-goal lead, as again, like I said earlier in the first period, it's hard at this point to climb back from this hill, but it's really the moral victories of how it sets up for the next 2 games that the U.S. has to be thinking about now. They can't be giving up or feeling like this whole weekend is unattainable or unassailable right now. They have to focus on the next shift and get the next goal.
The pool has definitely been less tilted in the second period. It's positive to the Americans. Probably still tilted. See Canada. This line.
Yeah, I guess it's still 80-20, 75-25 in favor of Canada. But the U.S. seems to be doing a better job of staying separated and focused.
It's again a nice save by Stokely. That time able to come out and cut down the angle, in part because he knew his backside defender was in a good spot. So good recognition by Stokely. Good defensive positioning on that backside by Reed. Allow Stokely to come out and make the save. Smith up top, another shot for Kashino. That is deflected. Stokely finds the rebound.
We're throwing.
Rifles it deep to Pedersen Taylor. Lays it off for Parrott. Parrott spins. Finds a shot. Stopped by Kasha. Pedersen Taylor tracking down the rebound on the rear boards. I tell you, as far as field players are concerned, he has been a fire plug every time he's been out for the Americans. Pedersen Taylor. And here he'll get to the loose ball once again and regroup. He's going to play it maybe back to Meyer. It tracks a couple of Canadian defenders. Smith in on the forecheck, able to pinch it away. Renapine spins. Renapine looking for the pass inside. That's cut off by both Meyer and Addington, who followed him well. Addington second man in and does well to steal the ball for the Americans. The U.S. will get a change. Third line back.
U.S. needs to be making more good, steady breakout passes. Again, another missed pass, another opportunity. There was room, just the pass a little too long.
I have to put it there if you're hurt because otherwise it's intercepted. And so it's just a matter of finding that chemistry right to shot that wants to get through traffic. Walsh waving at it. He's bodied out of the crease area by Tarasif and Bozier, both managing to keep that ball from danger, at least for the time being. A good horizontal pass. It's this pitch. The Canadians shot skips off the stick and into and Tarasif to Connor. Connor's pass for Addington is taken away by Mahoney. Mahoney turning, spinning, one-on-one against Tarasif. Tarasif then will force Mahoney into that giveaway. Keskamala puts it into the corner, and here's Thomas Quartermanche shoot. This is the first time we've seen this game. Quartermanche, one of the better players of the recently played Golden Gate Cup in San Jose, California. The leading scorers in that 51st floor below.
That's what the Canadians always try to come up with a fun name when they send a traveling team down to play in these U.S. tournaments. It's always fun to see them come down. That's actually where a lot of these players know each other from. Between that and the NAFL, the 3 seasons we played, many of these players played in the NAFL and had a chance to play against each other more than just on international level.
You were dark. As far as possession's concerned, but a steal by Daniel Hansen just puts it wide. Pasha comes back to grab the rebound to the rear board. Daniel Hansen has come out really like a Hofstra player in the second. Created opportunity to play penalty. Created opportunity on Chris Ross. David Hansen. 2-on-1. That time forcing Canada into a turnover. But this time that short post pass by Alex Field right to the defender, Itu Lumiala, who came in from his defending spot and scores to make it a 9-1 game.
That's tough when he comes in like that. Sebastian has to come out. Stockley comes out a little bit, and as he does, as he knee walks out, he just opens that right side just a hair, and Lumiala with a great shot just banks it in off the side of his hip.
So keeping that he might be going way around that. So it's really between just a little bit of room there out of necessity. Something did exactly that very well. But Field, give him all the credit in the world for making that pass back across the brain to find the defender for the goal. 9-1. Canadians lead. It was 6-0. Devon's been time to possession in the second period so far. From their passing in the middle third, as Miranda's talked about, resulted in.
And you can see, yeah, and you can see the Americans are starting to not go deep, right? I mean, they get the pass and they get up to the middle of the offensive zone. And it's like they just stop because there's nobody behind them. And so that gives Canada, unless there's a breakaway that carries into the corner or breakaway that comes to the net, the Americans tend to be hanging back because they don't get beat going back the other way.
Tend to build a to play defensively. Spin. Looked over by Isaac Heckerstick. Heckerstick makes contact with Smith's stick. And we get to Canada goal. Canada didn't, they didn't stop the ball before that free hit. And that's something that the officials, their discretion will whistle down. Shot in any case deflected off a Canadian body. It'll be U.S. ball. They're defending over it.
It's interesting. We're here at Southwestern University. It's spring break. But it looks like the girls lacrosse team, women's lacrosse team here for Southwestern, had a game today, and they stuck around. And we have a bit of a cheering section here from the ladies of Southwestern.
Chuck got his hand into the back of Connor, who went tumbling down. Keskamala took the ball, but now it's a 3-on-2. Walsh finding Mahoney, and that ball stuck right to the midsection of Stockley, who once again is fighting for every rebound that he can. He has been able to. Rebound ball scored off of his mask. Nothing he could do about rebound ball scored off of his foot. Nothing. Everything else is stuck to him, like you like to see for a keeper. Connor fighting 1v1 against Walsh. Walsh pitches it into the far boards to Cameron Buck. Buck will exchange there with Huntsburg. Buck runs from center. Kicks it back out to the ball. Go with Buck. Then beat by Huntsberger. Battle on the boards. Maloney, who's had his fair share of offensive opportunities this game, still looking for Westbrook's tally.
Swedish referee pair is doing an excellent job. These guys had actually done the Champions Cup, and they did. They've recently done another men's world championship for this in Malmo. So very experienced Swedish pair refereeing us today.
Player. Here, everything what's a I, Tom, with Southwest University Gymnasium, but you could hear them and even pick them up on it. Then explaining player right here. That's a massive sentence of prayer. It's the one is to look up and down, look at all those. Who's putting it in? Very inherent. That's when they, especially as a accuracy, penalized on this version.
Correct. And you can see them making those comments, those little preventative officiating comments, right there for Landon. Another great chance for in front, but Canada once again equal to the task.
Once again, Daniel Hansen creating the opportunity for David Hansen. Daniel Hansen's created a couple of big opportunities this shift, but the Americans can't come away with anything. Now Vinikovsky trying to cross over. Back to land finds Barber, who goes against the grain and scores.
It's tough. You got Stockley already sliding to get his near post. He had to get over to the near post, and the problem was he couldn't come out at the same time that he's going across. And as he goes across that close to the pipe, you're going to leave the whole far post wide open, and a player like him is going to take advantage of it.
And coaches will always put polls or some sort of identifier about that. Nothing we could do. He did well to get over. And here's the thing: if he stops midway, he's going to put it near post up anyway. So you're between a rock and a hard place as a keeper when you can't cut the depth down, and Stokely didn't have that opportunity. Angers take a quick shot, conflict controls. He's only given up one goal for the Canadians in net.
And that was on a power play. So don't know what his save count is so far, but it needs to be, if nothing else, the Americans need to get more shots on net over the next period.
And really get the save percentage. And this is an axe all the way here. It's not always about quantity, it's about quality. After the space to put the quality opportunities, but come down, but kept everything to the outside, and they blocked the high danger chances like those we saw.
We've got 2.5 minutes to go here in the second. There's still chances. While the game is a very tough climb at this point, there's still a lot of chances for good things for the Americans, and a lot of things that could happen in a short period of time.
Pedersen Taylor comes away with a steal. Smith back checks, gets back to the ball, but Pedersen Taylor's able to control. A nice spin, gives himself a little bit of free space, puts it towards the cage. It's popped in the air off of the hand of Kasha. It's a mess inside, and Kasha grabs it. Oh, we had another yard sale there in front of the net. Reed Hearns about scored off of his chest, but Kasha able to dive over. Kasha trying to be aggressive, trying to control this series.
Yeah, when it pops up like that and you lose it, because Kasha lost it for a couple of seconds, and that's when the Americans crashed. And when they crash the net like that, that's where you get the bodies in, and good things happen when there's a ball loose in your offensive zone. Oh, back post defense.
Of his own, feeds it back door to Grenapine as his second of the game. And one of the things I'll mention is when his balls go up in the air, the lights here, right on them. When you look up into them, you can blind it very easily. Pasha did a great job to recover. Canada gets a goal at the other end. I'm not even sure. Stick on the other defender on that. But an excellent pass. Stephen Friedley was done with everything. This game a very effective player. Now we see Ethan Van Patten come in with 131 left in the second period.
Ethan, another product of the men's U19 squad. Both these countries now, so many players coming up through men's U19. It's really exciting to see the future developing for both countries. And right now, Canada clearly has the lead on both this game and in the history series with the U.S. But there's certainly a lot of optimism on the U.S. side that it's going to get better.
Trying to chase down Portugal. Once again, as we talked about at the end of the first period, talked about if Stokely were to come out at that point, none of it is his fault. And here, I don't think we could fault him on a single goal. Some of the longer goals he was screened on very clearly. Most of the other goals have been scored within about 9 feet of the net. Not a whole lot I could do as a keeper in those circumstances. Chaz in the corner, looked over by Mosier. Mosier was able to fight off a couple of defenders, four checkers, really for Canada for the ball, and now Mosier will put it in deep. Stops as Quartermont settles it down for Canada, but they can only put it once again deep on the American. Third line versus third line match for the it's a little bit toward the wall. From the near wing. Addington, a nifty move inside, breaks the stick of Walsh. Walsh has to grab his stick now. He's used to the older IFF rules in this circumstance, but does grab both ends of the stick. 9 seconds remaining in the second period, and they'll tell Moser to hold. He might put it deep with 3 seconds left. He'll do just that. Impossible will grab it. And that does it for period number 2. So 6-0 Canada after 1:11. Canada. And it's so easy for him to cross over because the Canadians, outside of 9 minutes or so, had a big run. What do you think the Canadians did better than in the second period?
Well, in the second period, they played to the Americans' weaknesses a little bit more, and I think they were a little more resilient on some of this area. You look and watch what you mentioned earlier, that the Americans are not getting deep. Unless they carry it deep or one guy tends to spy back there, they're only getting about halfway into the offensive zone, where there's either a turnover, an errant pass, something happens, and Canada is standing strong there. The Americans, meanwhile, seem to be on their back foot when Canada has the ball, and Canada is settling in with 3 on the center line and waiting for their 2 forwards to go crossing in front of the net. And with that movement so far, that's what's going to happen.
Well, 11-1 is the score after 2 periods of once again Canada. Pretty much in time. It's time to and except that based on take to overall work of the ball. The game has progressed. It's been impressive game from Alex Field. We weren't sure how to play. Their first big time the senior Bears team being 19 halftime. He's been stiff. The usual suspects are also picked up for Canada. Look at it's a plus speed for we know those are good scorers. And this Canadian scoring that's going to carry the top. Because they're trying to overcome a 16th place finish in the last World Championships. They qualified 16th place is out of 16. They have the talent and ability to go much further than that. That's what they're for the Americans. They want to get things going maybe in a slightly positive direction. The goal difference is slightly less in that last period. So for the Americans, maybe a little bit more on the pass rate and maybe a little bit more ball build up when they have the opportunity and don't have their immediate pass back.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're seeing a lot of right now is maybe the lack of maturity of a lot of the younger American players versus the patience of a lot of the older Canadian players. And while that's a bit of a trope to put on the entire team on both sides, I do think you're seeing instances of that where maybe the sticks are a little bit flying. There's a little bit of a flail at the ball versus a controlled, contained carry of the ball or a quick touch pass. So hopefully what we'll see coming out in the third period is the Americans buckling down to play a period and win a period, right? Let's focus on just playing a good period, creating good scoring chances and playing good defense. There was a little bit of a defensive breakdown on some of those back post shots. And I think if you get in there and you get in and you win a period, just win a period and hold even with the Canadians, I think they'll be a lot better in their head going to the ball.
Just as we gave credit to Canadian talent. I thought Daniel Johnson was the player of the Americans. created a lot of problems, and penalty on the in general, it was a nuisance to the Cleveland team. So we'll look forward to the third period. Right. For about 8-minute break to set you up for the third.
Oh, wonderful.
And we welcome you back to the campus of Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas, setting you for the third period. Big one in the Men's Football Championships 2026 America's Nation. There are 2 more games, and then Saturday afternoon here in Georgetown, Texas, and it is supposed to be here in Texas. It's supposed to be high to 7 degrees Fahrenheit with these two teams are change issue. Canadians that it's a considering Bietkowski is no longer on their first line, that Cameron Buck up to this first one. Then Barber now is still the first line is as it has been. Okay. Plays it to the far side with David Hansen on to Daniel Hansen. Finds Landon Ben, but the ball skitters off of his stick. Field takes over for the Canadians.
Nice positive first development in the first period.
Well, once again, touched the stick of Daniel Hansen and it's been for the Americans to drive to the offensive opportunities in the first period.
Off the post.
Bigger part they Ethan Van Dyke. That's the other, but I think that's a bit of a flip save, I think. I think he got his foot to it. Will stick to it. See how that to the point. John skips through traffic. Buck knocks it with it. Comes to Lomito, and his shot blocked down by Miko Bahaba, and we hear a lot more of an animated U.S. bench coming out of that position. We're behind the cave, the Canadians.
Crowd starting to try to get into it as well as the U.S. Every small win, the crowd is right there. So, it's not too bad for attendance. I'm going to count right now. It'll be about 30 or 40. So it's positive. Not just parents, but new fans. Florida.
Teams change on the ball. Only parents able to steal the ball from the moment, but Smith. Now it's Bob Burns. Was very effective in his second here. Was in a more defensive shape as Smith attempted a shot through traffic, blocked by Inverstick. Ollie Parent's shot, that just whistles wide. Pasha missed it with his hand. Unfortunately, the man was part of the game. Pedersen Taylor has it along the board. Work where his feet it hits. Elliott's spins and it comes for Inverstick on his stick. Parent in the battle for the ball with Alex Jennings. That was Canadian. It's triggered on to Isaac Kachino.
Oh, why you know?
I mean, he would look towards the net now instead line. Smith's passing attempting in on that. Burns comes in to push the ball. Kachino then turns it over. Pedersen Taylor puts it in deep, goes sprinting after it. Gets the first though. Greniffin turns it up to Smith. Smith on a 3-on-2. Smith through the central slot area, and Ethan Van Patten makes a great left-hand save. He came out now on the and something does very well.
He does. He's learned a hard school too, playing for NTFA, one of the top clubs in the U.S. Past 3 or 4 times defending national champion. Ethan's been the goalie for that team. Dude, this is a whole nother level right here, and he's rising to the challenge so far in his first time appearance.
So it's play the nothing around. Ball goes in. Big deal. Look at the next one. Just how even-handed he is as he grabs the rebound and then kicks it aside to Terracin.
US has to do a lot better job of taking care of the ball. It's a good pass ahead, but they're, again, too much time losing the ball or working around. Patience is great, but the US has to take care of the ball.
Trying to drive through difficult area, and the Canadians come right back, I believe. Van Patten got a piece of that shot from Walsh. From behind the net. James Davies. To the near side and pass over for the Canadian back. Exchanges with both. So off a phone sticking out. This will have to change. No, it's only the first one. This time see number 70. Right. Well, to David Hansen. Far side looks near to Bullock. It pops off of his stick into the slot behind by the unscreened Kasha was able to make the save. Grabs it, puts it on to Barber. River across field last two. Nothing doing. Send the job at Justin Knight out of set it up to be. It's back to the offensive all Kennedy's defensive end. He's up to field. Field, not about the shot coming in from wing, is defended by Lane. Lane able to knock the ball loose to Baba. Smacks it in area behind the Americans' net. Here comes Ethan Van Patten looking for Landon. Patten that ball caught off, but the Americans will manage to retain possession. That's something that both Strictly and Ethan Van Patten do well as throwing.
They do an excellent job of throwing, and the thing is too is they were once in that play, it stretches the defense, right? If they know that a goalie's going to throw and can throw well, it forces the defense to step back, or maybe even crowd in, which is something to draw you a fun little extra defensive creator like this.
It also sets up the toss back to get moving. Isaac Ashes to sit on the here's only Parent in front looking for Caleb Letterman first time. He's seen the 77 in blue. One of the Colorado players along with only Parent. Shit chemistry and nearly connected on an opportunity in front of him at that time. Fire. Defending Nicholas Lancaster.
The U.S. getting drawn down, the defense is really pulled low there, and here comes Parent.
Parent looks in front for Letterman. Letterman trying to get all his space off a backhand shot. Grenadine stealing it. Back come the Canadians. Lancaster. They spawn one against Meyer on the boards. Meyer will keep it as they get boards for the turns, and the Americans will get a quick change.
I don't perceive that Canada has slowed down so much as I think the U.S. has reacted a little bit better to some lucky bounces and some fortunate bouncers. There's still work to do, but I do really like what I'm seeing on the U.S.
Likewise, the third year reserve Siebert. It's his first touch. Siebert threw a screen, and boy, that evaded Kasha. It nearly bounced in. Siebert does have a qualifier goal. Actually, John says all those automatic.
He's beautiful. He'll walk it right in and just make eye contact.
That's positivity from the center to so proceed with all the his today
I was just about to say, very nice little forearm sticker by Mosen in the back. Continue to play business.
Able to stand in
Look at that. You had 3 Americans down. That's just a little bit of inexperience, right? It's a little bit of lack of trust. And you had 2 different Canadians here on the near boards. You can't swarm the ball. It's forward. Just can't sit.
I would say, Brian, for the first 8 minutes or so of this third period, been a lot closer to 50-50 in terms of possession.
I would say so. That's what I'm saying earlier. Not quite sure. I'm not saying sure yet if that's an improvement on the Americans' part. Well, actually, by the way, there was a nice little 7-3 pass. Paco and can't quite beat it down. That's a nice shot.
Lane has an excellent shot, very heavy bullets. Not only is it fast, but it just seems to have a lot of field in the middle of the player's night. And then for the Canadians looking out at Barnes, it Buck's deflection ends up in the American bench. Buck was lobbying, taking the ball over. It was not that officials. But John called for a change.
That's always the case. Help each other out.
Here has the ball knocked away from him by 3. Greenlee has had an excellent lead into this. 3 points.
I pretty much you also have to wait. And then
Finger sticked with it, but he found himself with a lot of open space because Reed Hearns had made contact with center Pete. Greenlee dangles through a couple of players. I'll call things down, but it's so easy to look at the players looking in terms of Vijakovsky and were among the leaders, but Greenlee. Off of the goal. So we got to be. Yes, so there's it's the
well, that's the thing, right? One of them player right now. It's really hard to get 1%. It's hard to control a rebound. That there it was.
Well, that's stick. And there's better.
Good block.
It's going on with the ball. You're back watching stop that.
Yeah, when it's hovering there in front of you, you've got an opportunity to clear it, get rid of it. That's when you gotta take your advantage. Well, that's coming back to cover that back post of it too, right? There's been a couple of goals that America have given up back there on that back post. So heads up play by that coming back to Couples' brother. Now we see Ryan Foley up 70 for the first time from Florida. Plays a lot of times for the TFA and then just in tournaments. She's now there to the 70. of U19 graduate for Eric.
Oh, fine.
You just wonder if such a great baby to me. And so I'm playing. Not at all. I guess it's 5.5 minutes. Give a couple positive things to go into win while it's game. Like you said, it's at the same time, Canada has let up in all, so you have to sit back and say it's much better in the three performance from the Americans in the third. Although, as you can see from this turnover and counter, not where they need to be by a long time. Might have any stick contact, might have been something. So we'll see here how he responds. Give up one in a second. I think one wins, or is that the first one's given up? Okay. There you go. There you go.
Still, for down.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
What? That first free hit.
Correct. We called it before it went out, so like. Uh, well, and you also have some really, tough defense played by Tarasuk as well, on the American side. So there are choices. For those who don't know, there are a player of the match from each side, regardless of win or lose. He just lost it. He just lost it. It's unfortunate. And he knows it. Look at this. He's smiling there he knows he just lost it.
In second period.
He did.
It's a thing with the workers, the people were doing both. It's kind of the guy, hard to see.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. So, I mean, really, what you have is you have balanced team successes and struggles, right? So you had two balanced team successes. Actually, supposed to pick out any. Second, third. Um, oh, by for as well. So there are good team efforts happening here. There's a nice pass on the board. Nice deflection. He just has such a strong shot. Let's talk about the takeaway lessons from this past morning. We're ready to wrap it up here. If the horn sounds, the U.S. goes down. Canada takes a 1-0 lead in this series. What do we got for tomorrow in terms of lessons learned, and what do the teams need to do to be more successful tomorrow?
And that's the whole basic concept, I think, from people pull down at five. They're scoring, they're assisting. So they don't feel like they're all fighting sponsors.
Let's hear who we have now for the player of the match, presented by Heather Hudson, President of Football Canada. Brendan Barber for the Canadians. He's a player of the match. Comes over to his presence. Congratulations.
For TUFC, Landon Impact.
All this we've talked about, like, one of our players, along with a lot of opportunities in inside training. Quality, we had the opportunity to was able to count this team, about 1 or 2 almost important hours.
Yeah, they're gonna, and both teams have a practice tomorrow. What really is a walkthrough. It's a walkthrough and address things they've learned from this. But another big round of applause, thanking the Americans, thanking their home fans for coming out. Too bad the Women's Lacrosse team isn't here through Southwestern anymore. But a good effort made by the U.S. men tonight, but they do come up short to Canada. We'll go ahead and get this ready. We've got to finish all the recording for IFS. We apologize again for technical problem stream on this period. I think we got it figured out. We'll work on the audio a little bit tomorrow. You guys have a great night. See you tomorrow.